Are you considering a purchase of a RazoRock stainless steel BBS razor, or maybe just wondering about the finish of one of their other CNC stainless steel offerings? Well, since they sell out fast, the short answer is don't worry, you will be happy with your purchase. If you'd like a more detailed breakdown of my experience and my opinions on the BBS, then you've clicked on the right video. The RazoRock stainless steel BBS. Let's tackle this. Welcome to my channel, shavers and shavettes. I hope you are all doing well, and thank you for joining me as we take a look at the RazoRock BBS CNC stainless steel razor, a very fine razor indeed. Before we get into that, the rest of the equipment, pairing this up with a RazoRock barrel brush. I think it was silver tip, but not 100% sure anymore. Going with another fantastic Canadian product, the Henriette Victoria Cognac and Cuban Cigars soap. I ordered this from Canada, and PayPal held payment on my order for almost a week while they investigated. I wonder if that had anything to do with the name. Don't have any Canadian blades, so matching it up with a Russian lattice. So the razor, what I think makes this razor special is the way it holds the blade. It's got a pretty tight radius compared to other razors, and that adds a lot of rigidity and changes the angle that you hold the razor at, both of which I think make for one fantastic razor. Let's take a close-up look at exactly what I'm talking about here. When we take a look at the side profile, we see what I think sets the BBS apart from any other double-edged razor that I've used, at least. The blade gets bent quite a bit when everything is all put together, which changes what the Italian Barber website is calling the shaving angle. And according to the BBS page, the angle of most razors is generally around 45 degrees, whereas with the BBS it is closer to 35 degrees. I took some pictures of other razors for comparison and just to kind of get an idea of what's happening. I added a red line to help explain what I'm looking at, and first one I'll compare to is a classic in the hobby, Gillette Tech. We will add the red line on the Tech. We get a much flatter line than what we see on the BBS, and we'll fade those across a couple of times to, again, hopefully get the idea. Hopefully that makes sense to you. We'll compare a few other razors up there just for fun. And worth noting, none of the razors were loaded with a blade, so it's probably not a 100% accurate comparison. But my 5-year-old daughter wanted to help with the pictures, and I really didn't feel like having blades moving in and out of the razors. But I think it gets the idea across well enough. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So what does this all mean? Well, I think it means a few different things when we put everything together. The angle that you'll be shaving at, as you can see in the video here, it is quite a bit different. It feels not the same as with other razors. Even though it's only a 10-degree change according to the website, it is noticeable. And even now, if I go quite a while without using the BBS razor, it does take several strokes to kind of get back into that groove, to have the angle just right. Now, the nice thing about that is it is a very gentle razor. When you get the angle wrong as you're either learning that new position or going over the curves or bumps on your face, you've got very little risk of cutting yourself. What's going to happen, though, is if your angle isn't just right, you will miss spots. So before my third pass, when I'm using the BBS, I always make sure to take a little extra time to feel what areas have I missed, what areas do I have to maybe concentrate, focus a little harder to keep that angle correct. I think that adds to the enjoyment of the razor. If that's not something that you want to think about, you might have to take that into consideration if you're thinking about purchasing one of these razors. The other thing that I noticed with this is, I think due to that tighter radius, the blade feels a lot more rigid going across the whiskers. That's one of the reasons why I prefer single edge razors over double edge is having that heavier, rigid blade. With double edge, it almost feels like the blade buckles as it crosses over the whiskers. I can feel it bending. I can feel it skipping. Now, when it comes down to it, that's generally not an issue. Speaking of results, I just don't like the way it feels. I think there is times that it adds to irritation. While the BBS is not exactly the same as a single edge, it definitely brings that experience much closer. The nice thing about having a more rigid experience with the BBS is being able to access all the nice variety of double edge blades that are on the market. That's probably the only downside about single edge. There's not quite as much variety. My last thought about blades is, even though I haven't come across a blade yet that doesn't work well in the razor, some are better than others, of course, but I haven't been able to get past one shave with any of the blades I've tried so far. It's one and done for the blades in the RazoRock BBS. You might have more success than me. I might come across a blade in the future that lasts more than one, but so far, that second shave just doesn't cut it at all for me. One of the things that I think a lot of people are curious about is the finish of these razors. And I know that kind of kept me away for a little while with any of the Italian Barber stainless steel offers. For me, though, I am extremely pleased at the finish. I do have several of their razors, and this one is pretty representative of what I've seen. So it's probably a safe bet to say that this will be pretty much what you will see as well. Are you going to be happy with the finish, though? You're the only one that can decide that. I've tried to get some close-up pictures to give you as good of an idea as possible what to expect. But let's go ahead and take a close-up look at the razor's finish to see what you think about that. And now we're going to go ahead and take a look at each piece of the razor up close with the finish, starting at the top, working our way down. The top of the cap on mine has just a few very minor visible scratches. They can't be felt even if I try to run a fingernail across them. You can kind of see that in the highlights there. There are some very tiny pits, which again can't be felt. They're evenly distributed across the surface. Probably has something to do with the tumble finish process that's used, but not completely sure. Flip that over to the bottom of the cap, and here we see the worst of the tool marks. Not that it's bad necessarily, or at least I don't think it's bad, but definitely the worst finish of any piece. Same as before, though. I can't really feel any of the tool markings. They are very visible. Of course, once the razor is assembled and in use, you can't see those either. Moving into the base plate, the top of the base plate looks pretty much the same as the top of the cap, just a couple of very small scratches. And again, we see that very even pitting across the surface. Top of the base plate, once again, not going to be seen in use. Now, the slots that are machined in the base plate, I didn't get a very good picture showing this, but just wanted to mention the tool marks are very apparent here. In the form of just a bunch of parallel lines working their way all around. And finally, flipping over to the bottom of the base plate, this area is almost perfect. Just very, very few tool marks, almost none of the pitting that we see previously. Probably a little more wiggle room to get a higher polish than anywhere else we've seen so far. This is where we, of course, see the RazoRock branding, the model info, made in Canada, and what I think is probably the fanciest of all the RazoRock CNC stainless steel razors, the serial number, which is unique to each base plate. So something worthy of note, this is the only part throughout all the razor that is numbered. So take from that what you will. And finally, we end our tour with, of course, the handle. Now, this handle is the HD variant. I do have a few of their other offerings. And as far as finish, they're all right along the same line. So this is where now we're starting to see a very high level of polish. lots of nice mirrored surfaces. Here again, there's really not many, if any, tolerances to be afraid of. Can definitely polish that to what would be perhaps slightly out of round and wouldn't really make any difference whatsoever. The knurling is done wonderfully, makes for a very grippy surface, even if your hands are wet and covered in lather. So there you have it. Hopefully that gave you enough information that you can make an informed decision about how you feel with this finish. I, I don't see any problems with it. That doesn't mean that everybody is going to be happy with it. I do have 3 others, and like I said, the finish that we saw in these pictures is very much what the finish is for the other razors as well. So probably a safe bet. You'll be getting something that looks very similar to mine. The price of the razors, as much as I'd love to say that price doesn't have an impact on how I feel about products, it's going to have an impact. At the time I'm recording this, the BBS is right about $70, $69.99. I think that is an outstanding deal for what you are getting. A very well manufactured razor. It's extremely efficient, very gentle, but also doesn't buckle under the heavier stubble areas. I think you can't go wrong with the BBS, or if it sounds like the BBS isn't for you, any of the other RazoRock stainless steel offerings. Very, very high quality. They are meant to be effective at shaving. Is that mirror finish going to bother you? I don't know. You're the only one that can decide that. If we take a look at the price of the RazoRock razors versus pretty much any of the other steel offerings right now that do have a high mirrored polish, I don't know. You can't go wrong. Even if it's not 100% up to your standards, I think once you use it, you will enjoy the razor. That's about all I have to say about that. At the time I'm recording, Italian Barber does have plenty of these in stock. They do sell out extremely fast, so if you want to get one, I think you're going to be happy with it. You'll have to decide how you feel after watching this video. If there's any questions or concerns you might have that I did not address in this video, please feel free to leave a comment. I will get back to all the comments. Sometimes you might have to wait a little while. But that's all I have to say about the RazoRock BBS. Outstanding razor, outstanding bargain, in my opinion. Thank you so much for spending some time in your day to come and check out this razor with me. I really appreciate you, everybody, for looking at the videos. And yeah, that's all I've got. Thanks for watching. Hope you have a great day.